mortar emplacement, and of course those Panzergrenadiers who are firing away with their assault rifles. Not doing much though, and in fact they are taking quite a bit of casualties. And we are seeing reconnaissance troops moving in from the south as well, leaving behind this mortar emplacement once more in the hands of the enemy's troops. I'd rather not be those troops in that pit actually. And looks like it might be either wrecked or just cleared out. What shall it be? The crew were cleared out just barely before the pit itself collapsed, burying the mortar for all eternity.
Forward supply lines are broken.
So there you go, in the hands of the British, and apparently if you hold over the mortar itself you will in fact get the M2 tooltip. A bit interesting actually. Not entirely sure if that is 3 inches. I'm not entirely good on those measurements, but there you go. Panzergrenadiers though a bit on their own as the Stuart creeps in, blasting away with base and machine guns and of course its main gun. What are the Panzer Elite up to? Apparently getting the Panzer Support Command, probably hoping for a look for the anti-tank half-track to deal with those armored cars. And we're also seeing Scout Car with the logistic upgrade, getting more fuel on the fuel point. Not a bad idea, in fact. Good use of the logistic company, something we rarely see, and also increased squad sizes. Perhaps a bit excessive that, but at the same time will certainly give him some extra fuel, increase the firepower of his troops, in particular those with assault rifles, in which case of course for only 75 munitions he's in fact getting 4 assault rifles. Had that been stormtroopers you'd have to pay 150 munitions. As you can imagine, that's quite a bargain. And we are seeing British troops sneaking about without lieutenants quite cautiously. And the Stuart light tank dashes by, having absolutely no need for lieutenants to keep them on their ears. Quite speedy, but of course the light anti-tank half-track is waiting on the prowl, ready to disable the Stuart light tank and render it a very easy target. Kettenkrad once more having a close brush with the Kettenkrad, but the Kettenkrad once more miraculously escapes. The Stuart though is in a bit more trouble, in fact getting immobilized by the light anti-tank half-track, which just continues blasting away at the Stuart. Now the armored car joins in for a bit of fun as well with this auto cannon. And Panzergrenadiers also on the spot to immediately begin repairing the anti-tank half-track, really increasing the living time of it. Not a bad idea. And anti-tank grenades as well. Peer troops moving in to disable the anti-tank half-track. Will they succeed? One goes down and looks like they are getting out of there. And the Stuart light tank is gone. Stuart though, Sappers though, retreating in the face of the assault rifles, realizing Piets aren't really that good against such measures. And in the meanwhile we are seeing the rest of the British army having a bit of a lull here in the cemetery for some reason, while the mortar emplacement really has no targets to speak of whatsoever. And we are seeing a second Stuart light tank being prepared. German troops once more charging in towards the center with large amounts of support. And this time the British are actually pulling towards the better cover, out of reach of those incendiary grenades. Well, not apparently. A masterful throw from a Panzer Grenadier. Mortar rounds flying but not really hitting at all, or even doing any damage. Mortar pit is cleared out. What's this? Stuart from the rear. And Rifle Grenadiers taking quite a bit of damage. Panzer Grenadiers, oh dear, a canister shot slaughtering quite a bit. And now the anti-tank half-track is of course unable to immobilize. Of course the Stuart could of course target it. Why on earth is he going after the armored car? Of course now they both have a damaged engine, so they are of course much easier targets. Kettenkrad up there realizing, oh dear, there's something that's taking this point up, and looks like no, he's ignoring the anti-tank half-track completely. A bit interesting, and now he's stopping up completely. And these chaps are trying to perhaps knock out this armored car. Will they succeed? The anti-tank half-track is out, but the armored car, by a miracle, makes it out of there. Stuart tries with one parting shot, but of course those flak feeling will be able to tear apart this Stuart light tank if it gets much closer, as its armor is just thin enough. And what is this? A Hetzer, the 12th SS calling upon their Panzerjägerabteilung Mind you, Hetzers didn't fight in Normandy, but we would always just imagine it's a Panzerjäger 4. Of course, we'll just refer to it as Hetzer for not to confuse people. There you go. And another Stuart is out. The Hetzer proving to be quite the fearful adversary. And the Kettenkrad once more in a very dangerous situation with the Stuart. Will it survive this time as well? No, the Kettenkrad finally catches on fire. Finally a Stuart kills the Kettenkrad. And we are seeing the armored command truck being called in. Lots of fuel for the British, so that's certainly not what they're going to be missing. And in fact, let's go have a look at our friend here, who has of course Hetzers on the field. Lots of fuel as well. Plenty of Panzergrenadiers, 4 teams, an armored car. And of course the scout car as well. And then finally the Hetzer tank destroyer and light assault gun. And we are seeing sappers with Piats on the move. A second lieutenant again moving about without actually supporting the infantry. Not entirely sure why he's so keen on that. And the Hetzer moves in. Light machine gun firing and getting hit by Piat bombs. Not much luck there though. Having to pull back towards its friends, the Panzergrenadiers, and the British are quick to ignore it. Probably expecting that, yes, there shall be Panzergrenadiers nearby. 1 veterancy, 2 with offensive and defensive veterancy. Not a bad move either. Not entirely sure what those chaps are out for. But slowly securing the central areas once more. Bit of an interesting bug though if you're the British commander apparently and then switch back to other sides. You can't really take all of the things since, well... Oh wait, you can. Just looks a bit silly though since it's the British icons. Fancy that. And we are seeing a Bofors 40mm anti-aircraft cannon. Should certainly be helpful in keeping any German troops at range. Of course, thing is with the Bofors, if you can get close, it can't actually hit your troops. So that's of course a fun thing, but of course it will be able to tear apart any light armored vehicles and any infantry at range and do terrible, terrible things on them. And the scout car having been moved out, no longer needing to stand about there, it feels. So now on the move, seizing territory while the rest of the 12th SS are perhaps gearing up for an assault, repairing this armored car. And looks like the British are instead going to force the situation with a lieutenant, in fact, firing away, killing 1 Panzergrenadier outright, further assault rifles being equipped, and Germans are quick to react with speed and ferocity, catching a few Scotsmen out in the open, wounding them and doing terrible things. Assault rifle grenades, Bren guns blasting away, Piat rockets, another Panzergrenadier down, and we are seeing artillery being called in on the armored car. Quite extraordinary. And we're also seeing the Bofors blasting away those Panzergrenadiers, killing even further. Heavy losses for the Panzergrenadiers, who are now running straight through the rain of artillery fire. Absolutely horrific. But they managed to survive, and so does this armored car. So in fact not the most effective, but still. And our Panzergrenadier team is quickly, swiftly cut to ribbons by the Bofors, ever vigilant on their tiny anti-aircraft gun. Not looking good. And the Hetzer is the only thing to actually hold the line while the armored car is being rushed elsewhere to perhaps deal with this naughty captain, who is of course sneaking about behind enemy lines and is now quick to get out of there before all is lost, and he himself ends up. And there we go, the captain did not make it. Major does seem to have a bit of a problem keeping his subordinate officers alive. And now having several Kettenkrads, in fact really hoping to win. No, that's the scout car, of course, my fault, but still. Sneaking about for several units to seize territory behind British lines, not a bad idea. The British does seem to have a bit of a problem establishing a continuous line, and does seem a bit too keen on blobbing up, not spreading his troops out, which can end up badly if, say, the opposing commander does go for something like say, oh, I don't know, a mortar half-track. Or, of course, he gets a Hotchkiss and equips it with the Wurfrahmen, the throwing frame, and the Hetzer takes quite a bit of fire. Piat rockets penetrating the frontal armor, but assault grenadiers are quick to move in, catching down a few sappers, forcing them away. But the reconnaissance section is quick to provide cover and kill some of those dastardly Panzergrenadiers of the Hitlerjugend. But they are coming under a lot of fire, and rifle grenades now blasting towards them. Rifle grenades, of course, not being exclusive to the British, but of course it would be a bit silly if all had access to it. Of their own variants, of course, would be interesting. And we are seeing another incendiary grenade to again force them out of cover. Certainly again an interesting use of it. And the Hetzer commander is most upset, going about mad dogs and Englishmen idioten. And we are in fact seeing the Kampfgruppe Kompanie and a mortar half-track again now spotting that yes, these troops are in fact awfully bunched up. What do we do against bunched up units? We get in some artillery, in this case of course being the Panzer Elite. We get a mortar to blast out those buggers. So of course, realizing what's going on, he is of course getting what is needed. Excellent job there, Hauptsturmführer. At the same time, we are seeing the British punching up right here behind the Bofors, apparently a bit unsure what to do, having lost quite a bit of victory points as well. And what on earth is going on? He's switching around on his trucks? That's a bit peculiar. In fact, I'm not entirely sure why he's doing that. Perhaps he's wanting a closer retreat point, perhaps to sort of force them up here. That's certainly the only reason I could imagine for it. A different retreat point, otherwise there's no real reason to switch about here, in fact. But there you go. British troops here and British troops there. British troops everywhere. And we are seeing the 12th SS getting ready to move forwards. One more mortar half-tracks sneaking up very closely, ready to drop some nasty munitions on those Tommies. And Kettenkrad reporting a Piat squad. Oh dear, it's exposed, and this scout car has in fact been knocked out by these rather dashing Piat troopers. And they get a Kettenkrad now as well. Certainly not the most challenging things they're thrown against, but I'm pretty sure they aren't complaining. Mortar rounds now beginning to fall amongst the British troops. Quick to dodge, but the incendiary grenade round cannot be dodged. And oh dearie me, what's going on? I'll just be briefly all tapping. Oh